Could the door still be open for the Washington Commanders to trade up to number 1 overall and take Caleb Williams out of USC with the number 1 overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft? NBC Sports' Peter King believes that the Chicago Bears are going to pass on Caleb Williams and trade out of the number 1 pick. So could the Commanders be the team to potentially swoop in and take the presumptive number 1 quarterback? We'll be discussing it today right here on the Commanders Report. But before we get into that, if a trade happens, if this blockbuster move happens and the Commanders move up to number 1, we're going to be going live right here on the channel, breaking it all down for you guys. So make sure you click that subscribe button for breaking news action every single time the Commanders have a big news story, every time they sign a big name in free agency, if they make a trade, all these different things, we're going to have you covered here in the biggest offseason of this franchise's history. Right now, we're just 26 subscribers away from 12,000, so help us get there today by clicking that subscribe button. All right, so now let's get into this from Peter King, somebody that's very connected with the Chicago Bears organization. This is what he has to say about the Bears QB situation. I suppose the Bears are going to try and trade the top pick. I know nothing, but that seems to be the way the wind is blowing. What I say, the Bears could keep Justin Fields and trade the first pick down once or twice and build the kind of supporting cast a team needs to contend. So listen, the thing that I'll say about Peter King is that he is very well connected with the Chicago Bears. He called their trade with the Carolina Panthers last year. He's very close friends with Ryan Poles, their GM. So if he's getting the feeling from his relationship there in Chicago that they're going to trade down, you have to at least listen to it. Now, he does say in his article that he knows nothing, all right? So he doesn't have insider information or anything like that. It's just what his feeling is and what he thinks the Bears should do is trade down from number 1 to a team that's willing to give them a king's ransom. But personally, guys, I'm based on everything that I'm hearing from Rappaport and Schefter and all the people that actually have insider information, I wouldn't hold my breath of any possibility of the Washington Commanders trading up for Caleb Williams, who of course did arrive in Indianapolis for the NFL Combine today. He spoke to the media and he even answered a question about what it would be like to play for the Washington Commanders. He is from Washington. It would be his hometown team, and he said it would be cool and it would be familiar to play with the Washington Commanders, not only because he'd be going to his hometown, back to his hometown, but he'd also be playing for an offensive coordinator in Cliff Kingsbury that he was extremely close with there at USC. So everything about going to the Commanders would work in Caleb Williams' favor, but he also talked about how much he would love to go to the Chicago Bears and how much he wants to be a part of that sports culture. So listen, I just don't think it's going to happen, guys, because Albert Breer reported the other day that a trade-up price for the Chicago Bears to move out of number 1 overall is going to be at least 3 first-round picks. All right, and if you're the Washington Commanders and you're sitting at number 2 and you could have either Drake May or Jaden Daniels, 2 really good quarterback prospects in their own right, or trade 3 first-round draft picks for Caleb Williams, is that price really worth it to move up just 1 spot and forfeit your first-round picks for the next 2 years? I just simply don't think that that's the case. And even if the Bears were willing to trade down, I'm not sure, or even if the Commanders wanted to trade up, I just don't think the Chicago Bears are going to want to move away from that number 1 pick. I think all the things that they've been saying, Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus have been saying at the Combine this week, indicate that they are going to take Caleb Williams number 1 overall. And this Peter King nonsense here saying that they're going to trade out of the number 1 pick, I think it's kind of founded on nothing, and I just don't see it happening. But if the Commanders do end up making the trade, this is probably what it's going to look like at the very least. All right, so you're going to swap first-round picks this year to move up to number 1, and you're going to have to give Chicago your first-round pick for 2025 and 2026 to land Caleb Williams. And you guys know how I feel about Caleb. I think that he's one of the best, if not the best, quarterback prospect to ever enter the NFL draft. I think that highly of him. But honestly, guys, with Drake May or Jaden Daniels going to be sitting there at number 2, I'm not sure if I would do this, but let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section for today's pinned comment. Type A if you would accept this trade offer to go get Caleb Williams, or type D if you're going to decline it. All right, so now let's shift to the next mock draft for Mel Kiper Jr. here that just released this morning. And of course, with the number 2 overall pick, he's sticking to his guns here. And just like in his 1.0 version, he has the Commanders taking Jaden Daniels out of LSU over Drake May at number 2 overall in this year's NFL draft. This is what Kiper has to say about the pick. I'm sticking with Daniels here over Drake May out of North Carolina, though it's tight. I love Daniels' fit with new Commanders offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury, who will run a wide-open offense and put his quarterback in the best position to succeed. Washington already has 2 really good and young wideouts in Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson, so Daniels and Kingsbury would be able to start quickly. I can't wait to watch him at the next level. Now, coming up here, I'm going to give my thoughts on what Kiper has to say about going with Daniels over Drake May, and then I'll let you know which quarterback I would take if I were GM Adam Peters right now. But before we get into that, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Prize Picks. And football season may be over, but the action on the floor, both collegiately and at the NBA level, is just heating up with our friends at Prize Picks today. Whether it's tournament season or the fight for playoff home court, there's no shortage of high-stakes basketball moments this time of the year. So get in on the excitement with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. And with Prize Picks, it takes less than 60 seconds to make your picks. So get started right away, right now, before March Madness gets going, before the NBA playoffs gets going. Start making some money with Prize Picks today. Download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more or pick less. It's that easy with our friends at Prize Picks. So listen, at the end of the day, I don't really have a huge preference on whether the Commanders take Drake May or Jaden Daniels at the number 2 pick, and I do trust Adam Peters, the new GM, and Dan Quinn, the new head coach, to make the best decision for the team. They're going to be in the room interviewing these guys. They're going to really get to know the 2 of these quarterbacks over the next several weeks and months here leading up to the big day in Detroit, and they're going to do all their homework, and I trust them to make the right decision. Now, with that being said, if I had the choice right now, based on what I've seen on film from both of these quarterbacks, I would personally go with Drake May, who I do have a higher grade on at this point in the process. All right, I break down why I think Drake May is the better overall prospect in a video we already put on the channel here, where I go over the full scouting reports of both Drake May and Jaden Daniels. I'm going to put the link to that video in the comments and description of today's show, so you can check out that video once we're done talking about the rest of today's topics. So now, before we get into the rest of today's show, go ahead and click that thumbs up icon right now if you are a real one. It really does help us grow the channel, because the more people that like this video, the more YouTube is going to push this out to other Commanders fans like yourselves. So if you enjoy the content here on the channel, we'd really appreciate it if you click that thumbs up icon. So yesterday, both GM Adam Peters and Dan Quinn took to the podium at the NFL Combine to talk about the new rebuilding process, the quarterback evaluation process, all of that great stuff. And I cannot wait to see what they are. And yesterday they had some very, very interesting things to say in terms of what they're looking for, in terms of their quarterback, in terms of everything that they're going to be looking for to rebuild this team moving forward. We actually put their interviews up on the channel yesterday, so this is the thumbnail for the Adam Peters one. We'll put the link in the comments and description if you want that one. And then also new head coach Dan Quinn talked with the media yesterday as well. We put that one up on the channel last night, so I'll put the link for both of those interviews in the comments and description of today's show in case you missed them. All right, so now let's get into my takeaways from their press conferences here. And the first takeaway is that Sam Howell could absolutely be staying as the backup quarterback. Both Quinn and Peters talked about how they have a relationship with Howell, that they've connected with him, that they've had extensive conversations with him, and that they like him. All right, so I think if they're going to trade Sam Howell, it's going to take quite a bit, either a third or a fourth round pick at the very least. And at the end of the day, I think they want to keep Sam Howell because he's got somebody with starting experience in this league. He's got experience with the receivers in the building, and he's also a super cheap backup option that gives them a lot of opportunities in terms of free agency this year that otherwise would not be there if you have to sign a backup quarterback this year in free agency. Number two, when it comes to the quarterback evaluation process, offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury is going to have a say in who they choose, all right? Adam Peters said yesterday that he talks with Cliff every single day about what he's looking for in the next quarterback of the Washington Commanders and what fits his system. And it's definitely apparent to me that Cliff Kingsbury is going to have a very loud voice in that building when it comes to deciding between Drake May or Jaden Daniels, if it is those two available at the number 2 overall pick. And then when Adam Peters was talking about what he looks for in a quarterback prospect, he talked about intangibles being extremely important. This makes sense because Peters comes from San Francisco, where they traded up for a guy in Trey Lance who was a physical specimen but didn't necessarily have the mental horsepower to become a good NFL quarterback. And then they take Brock Purdy, an intangibles-heavy quarterback, at the last pick of the draft a couple seasons back, and he ends up being their franchise quarterback. So it makes sense why Adam Peters really believes in the intangibles here, and I really do think between Drake May and Jaden Daniels, whoever they feel is the most intelligent, whoever they think is the best leader, whoever has the best intangibles is going to be the one that they end up picking in the end. Number 4 takeaway here is that they're definitely still going through the process, and it's pretty apparent, right? They don't have a set plan in place. They don't have a quarterback that they're really locked in right now. They're in the middle of the process. Everybody just got into the building, so they didn't have a lot of concrete answers for us yesterday at the podium in Indianapolis. And then number 5, and the last thing is that you can definitely feel the energy. You can feel like everybody in that building is really getting behind both Adam Peters, the new GM, and Dan Quinn as the new head coach and as the leader of this organization and of this football team. Seems like everybody is really enjoying their presence, enjoying everything that they're doing so far, and it really does seem like they're doing things the right way, which definitely has me optimistic for the future of this franchise as we enter this new era. Now let me know down there in the comments section, what is your confidence level in Dan Quinn and Adam Peters as the new head coach, GM combo here? Put it on a scale of 1 to 10 for me. 1 being not confident whatsoever, they're going to be terrible, to 10 meaning I'm totally confident in them. We're going to be winning Super Bowls with these guys in the near future. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section, and that'll be it for today's show. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button for more extensive Commanders coverage all throughout the 2024 offseason.